The newly released tapes granting an astonishing look at the twisted mind of a serial killer.
Back when I was smart, I would let them come to me.
And he told agents something they'd never heard before, that he left kill kits or caches buried in several states, filled with everything he'd need to commit a murder.
You cannot be that organized and deliberate and fit any legal definition of insanity.
This video contains the interview of a man who confessed to killing at least 11 people. From July 2001 to February 2012, Israel Keys committed several felonies, including burglary, bank robbery, arson, and assault. He was also responsible for at least 11 murders and may have more victims unaccounted for. Keys' destructive nature can be traced to his childhood. He became known for robbing houses and torturing animals. People became unnerved by his presence and often avoided him. Unlike many serial killers, Keys did not seek out a particular type of victim, instead choosing them randomly. He would carefully plan for months before acting and tried to ensure that he didn't form any patterns that could be traced. Keys may not have been caught if he hadn't used the credit card of his last known victim. He did so multiple times, which allowed the police to trace his location. He was pulled over for a routine traffic stop, and in the car, they discovered ink-stained money from a bank robbery.
Didn't sleep much last night. No, not that. These are just good work apparently. I had muscles sore this morning. I didn't even know I had. Really? Which muscles? Gee, that's a good thing you didn't get a full on. This reminds me of like those late night infomercials you used to sell those machines that shock your abs and stuff. Oh. It's like that one. You have one? You bought one of them? No, Kimberly did. Oh. But I tried it once. You get ripped from it? No.
So, you weren't too taken with the machine, basically?
No, all the ab
shocker things?
You know, those things are like fingernail or like chocolate. I consider it.
Okay, well, Israel, we'll run through this same stuff that we do every time. We're running a tape here just so we make sure we get all the facts straight. So,
Alright.
And I just want to confirm, we didn't interrupt you with your attorney when we reached out here.
No.
Right? Was your name, sorry.
No.
Okay. And you're here voluntarily, right?
Yes.
You understand that we can't talk about anything to do with the case involving Samantha McCoy. If you do start talking about that stuff, then we'll have to stop the interview and we'll have to take you back to jail. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. You'll run through your Miranda rights here. I know we've been through it before, but we'll run through it one more time. Before we ask you any questions, you must understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you questions. You have the right to have a lawyer with you during a question. If you cannot afford a lawyer, we will be appointed for you for any questioning if you wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you have the right to stop answering at any time. Do you understand these rights as I've explained?
Yes.
And with that explanation in mind, are you willing to waive your rights and speak with us today?
Yes.
One other thing, you've got standby counsel appointed in this particular matter. I believe it's Rich Kurtner.
Yes.
And it may also be Jacqueline Walsh. I'm not 100% sure of that, but be that as it may, do you want either of those attorneys present today?
No.
Are you on any medications or any other substances that we should know about?
No.
And are you having any difficulty understanding where you're at or what's going on?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so. All right, now that we're done with that, I apologize. We're going to jump in here, and the first thing I got to tell you, Israel, we talked about a little bit earlier, that stunt yesterday in the courtroom did not go over well. Well, with a lot of folks, not the least of which were the prosecutors. And that was the delay, actually, in here is we knew you had some legal questions, and so we reached out for them to say, hey, Israel says you got some questions. Are you guys available to speak to them? I couldn't even get one. One of them was in court, and the other one said, basically, what the fuck, after yesterday. So they didn't think that was too funny.
Why are they afraid I'd actually get away?
Keyes had always admired Ted Bundy and chose to attempt to escape during court as a sort of tribute. Keyes used wood shavings from a pencil to pick his handcuffs.
No, it's. I don't think that they were looking at it from that perspective. You know,
Lawyers just don't like excitement. That's all it is. Well, it's more of a understanding that they thought we were kind of working towards the goal, and they're working on trying to keeping Vermont on board and doing everything.
I would have sent them an anonymous letter.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of wondering where we're at with that. Where are we at with what's changed since yesterday?
More handcuffs.
Yeah.
what's changed for you, though?
Nothing. Possibly additional charges. Well, I don't understand why it surprises me that they would take that personally at all. It really doesn't have anything to do with them.
Well, I didn't interpret it as though they took it personally. They're very concerned and very frustrated because I think in their mind we had a business relationship set up here, and they worked very hard to kind of lay out their position and the things that they thought that they could potentially do that would be in your interest based on the information you've provided. So they felt like we had a business relationship, and they felt like the actions that we took yesterday really kind of threw that out the window. And I gotta be honest, it kind of looked that way from our perspective too.
Oh, I disagree. I mean, honestly, and I know we can't go too far back into some of the original interviews that I had with them, but by their own words yesterday in their opening statement to the judge in court, I feel like they have not been honest with me about what my bottom line has been throughout all this, and that's what I wanted to talk to them about. So I'm not going to take it out on you guys, but I do have some serious issues right now. There's some sort of obvious communication breakdown over the entirety of this whole situation, and it's easy to sit there and say on the recording, we're not here to talk about the Kona case, but the fact of the matter is that they're the same people that I talked to about that originally. So you understand my position on that. So I understand I'm not allowed to talk to that, and I respected their wishes about not talking to them about that either without my attorney present, but I have some serious frustrations right now regarding matters related to that. So that's as far as that's concerned, and I don't think it's something that can't be worked out. I've been trying to work it out from my end, but apparently there's only so much I can do. So that's what I wanted to speak to them about, and not in a matter of any specifics regarding any other case, just like general topics. Like I say, it's the topics that were discussed in open court yesterday. So it's that's a frustration to me right now. They won't talk to me about those topics, but it's okay to talk about it in open court. That's I'm not buying that, so that's okay.
Well, there are different rules for what can be done in open court because your attorneys are present, the judge is present, and when we're having discussions over here, we've got to adhere to a different set of rules.
Right, because you have me sequestered away from. Right, I understand that. And I've been working on that as much as I can from my end. But, there really is just like a couple very simple questions I have to ask them. And I need to get a straight answer from somebody before I can move forward on it, because I'm not getting a straight answer on my end.
So you think they might be able to provide you with some
yes, I
general questions about...
Right. Not even questions related to the case. Just,
And are you talking about the hearing yesterday afternoon or the hearing yesterday morning?
Yes. Well, let's see.
Because you had two.
Yeah, it didn't. Let's see. First hearing. No, it was pretty much strictly related to the afterlife.
How about if you could give me a general question, we might be able to make a phone call and see if they can.
Well, okay.
Generally.
My position has been, and I made no secret about this. My position has been that I want to talk to them about the Koenig case and find out, where we stand with that.
But you know we can't do that, and they can't do that right now.
Keys refers to 18-year-old Samantha Tesla Koenig, his last confirmed victim, and the case responsible for his arrest. I recently released another shocking case on my Patreon. This video shows the interview of a man who, after being involved in the murder of a man and his wife, later ended up shooting a 12-year-old boy in the head. You can watch it right now at patreon.com/strangerstoriesplus.
Right. No, I understand that. But
So we don't want to talk about
the impression that I spoke to him before, and he gave me the impression that he was open to that, but only if my attorneys were present. And I said, okay, fine. I'll talk to him. We'll set it up. That was a month ago. So there's communication.
Oh, I see.
That's all I can say about it, because they're not here, to state their case, their side of the story. But I do know what they've been telling me, and so if he he made it clear that, at least at that time, that he was open to that suggestion that I had, and I'm assured that. I guess it just comes down to I don't know who to believe right now, because there's there's a hitch in the communication somewhere. And honestly, I wasn't that concerned about it until yesterday, when I heard some of the things that were said in court, and
some of the things that were said by the
prosecution. I think it was years or so. But from what he said, I was not at all happy with the. And actually, I had heard. A day or two before that hearing that was what was going on, and I had no idea. And then to hear it confirmed in court like that, was kind of just, was frustrating. So, and honestly, I'm not gonna get all in a tizzy about it until we can at least talk about it and find out what is going on. It's not that I'm not willing to accept the people's explanations for what's going on. It's just that no one's giving me an explanation. So.
I guess my thought on that is we've tried to do that, and we'll continue to try to do that. But just keep in mind that all of us are, we're bound by the rules that are set down for us.
Yes.
And in some cases, the rules will be more restrictive than usual, and that's kind of what's going on, to be perfectly honest.
Because of its high profile.
Well, yeah, there's that, and then sometimes there's additional rules that we have to live by, and like the standby counsel thing, frankly, is kind of unusual. We don't run into that very often.
Right.
And there are some other things, I'm not going to get into it because it's kind of legal stuff, and it's not really my strong suit. But just keep in mind that the attorneys are juggling more things than they normally would.
Right.
And there are things I think that we would all like to be able to talk with you about, but we just haven't had that opportunity yet.
Right, and that's my concern.
Are these questions that you have for the attorneys, questions under the conditions that we have to speak about, are these questions that they're going to be able to answer, or are they just going to tell you, we can't talk to you about that because it's not related?
There are questions they're probably not going to want to answer unless I have...
Okay. So it's not something that they can even answer in this environment right now.
Not right here, right now. But I would like reconfirmation on the previous statement that Feldes had told me. I mean, he gave me that statement in an interview that was, with just me. And I don't know if he was saying it as an official response or if he was just saying it to placate me. But he did say he was willing to do that, to have a meeting with me and whoever, whatever counsel was required so that we could discuss things openly. And it hasn't happened.
Well, and
And you think that?
And I'm not.
And you think we're on this side stalling that?
I don't know who's stalling. Somebody's stalling it. That's all I can say for sure. And it's not me.
One thing we can tell you is neither Kevin nor Frank are the kind of guys that will tell you something just to shine you on it. So
I haven't got that impression. No.
They're not. And so if they've told you something, it is something that they believe can be done. And I don't always understand all the reasons why things work exactly the way they do in the legal system, but they're not going to bullshit you. It's just not their style.
Right. I agree with you, and I believe you up to a point. I mean, it's not like I'm here expecting special treatment. I have no doubts about what my part is in all this. I'm just saying that, from what I've seen and from what my dealings are with him so far, I'm more inclined.
The detectives are trying to placate Keys about his questions so he does not refuse to cooperate with them.
To put my faith in the things I've heard from them than from certain other people. So
you know that they have gone through what they're trying to work out, and what I think they have worked out with Vermont is unheard of too. I think.
Right. Well, I mean, and
we were very coming to talk to you about that today, and I just that the lawyers are just, they're just not sure where we stand now because of yesterday. They want some assurance that we're still kind of going.
Well, that is a good point. I hadn't even thought of it in that way. That now that it's on the news, people there are going to read it too. So.
Well, and that's the difficulty that they're having. They've been on conference calls talking to them, saying, "I thought this guy was, I thought he's on board," and so frankly, that's why we went through this trouble today to meet with you today, just kind of so we could give them a feel for how things are and where we stand and what we can tell them where we stand. And this was just,
Yeah, well, I mean, I know it's going to be hard for anybody to accept, but especially them, I would imagine. That didn't really have anything to do with our arrangement. From my perspective, so.
Okay, but I mean, I don't think it's something that they can't work past. They've worked through some pretty miracle stuff right now, so I think this is something they can probably, they want some assurance that we're going to be able to go back down that same road that we were on. We've made a major turn.
I don't imagine this will stay strictly between you and me and people in this room, but I believe the people in this room know me well enough now to know that when I say what happened yesterday has nothing to do with our arrangement, and like I said, it's not some part of some grand scheme. I already know how this all ends for me, so.
Look, I mean, it's good. I think that we can hear that from you. That's just that was an opportunity that happened there, and
right. That's what it was.
Some of the things that they're concerned about and that they're getting questioned about by, like Vermont, for example. Like Jeff said, we know that they had a long conference call with Vermont today, trying to explain what happened and answer questions of Vermont. We saw a draft version of the letter, and it was everything you asked for. I mean, it truly was. And I think they're trying to answer some pretty tough questions from Vermont right now about basically what the fuck.
Right, but I mean, even still, from their perspective, come on, let's face it. Yeah, what happened yesterday? Ooh, I'm a bad guy. I tried to escape, but let's be honest. Nobody really thought I was a good guy before that, so it's not like being escaping suddenly makes me untrustworthy. I was kind of untrustworthy.
Keys finds it amusing that everyone is worried about his escape attempt. In his opinion, the fact that he is a murderer means they should expect such behavior from him.
Before that, so
at least you have the perspective of have an unrealistic perspective.
Yeah, I'm not. And obviously, I think you probably especially know that I'm not going to get another opportunity like that, at least not within my lifetime. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell him. All I can say is that, nothing's changed as far as my day-to-day and my reality, it's still the same.
You still envision a way where we can get to meet both of our goals, where we can get what we want out of this?
I think so, but like I say, after yesterday, I had some frustrations of my own. So that was kind of the catalyst that,
So what you're saying is there's a couple things you need cleared up from them.
I do, yeah, and and honestly, like we've talked about before, like all this other stuff, this like little bargaining chips, whatever you want to call it, that is all one thing, but everybody knows what my bottom line concern is in all this, that I wanted this all wrapped up as quickly as possible. And like I said, I was in open court yesterday, and it's obviously not happening. So that's, and I'm, it's not that, like I said, it's not that I'm pointing the finger or placing blame on anyone. I haven't even had an explanation of why things are the way they are, so how do I know whose fault it is, or if it's anyone's fault? I don't even know that. So. But that doesn't mean it didn't, kind of, because I remember all the interviews we've had. I remember what we said since day one, and my perspective hasn't changed from any of that. Yeah, granted, we've talked about a lot more things since then, but those are all things that I already had in my head before. Just because they're out on the table now, that doesn't change anything from what I wanted originally, what we talked about originally. So it's all still the same issue. So. Anyway, that's okay.
It's all good. So all that being said, where can we go from here?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that we can go anywhere until I get some straight answers on, what I was just talking about. Because really that has been my bottom line all along. And I won't be a bit surprised. I think I know what's going on, but I need confirmation before I decide to take the next step or steps, whatever it takes.
And I don't know specifically what you're talking about, but I mean, it's very possible that it's something, whatever your questions are, that they may not be able to answer them because.
Right, for other reasons. Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, I know there's, regardless of how unusual this situation is, that doesn't mean you can make it even more unusual. I mean, I know they still have guidelines and rules they have to follow. I'm not expecting all the answers.
Nobody wants to cross the line that's told by a judge can't be crossed. And
right.
They can't do that. Nobody can. And so.
Yeah. No. I know.
I mean, all I can tell you is you're going to have to use your judgment on the information that you're getting and see if you can.
That's what I'm trying to do, but it's it's not an easy thing when you get everything through a middleman, as it were. So, like I say, I don't know who to put the blame on right now. I'm pretty sure I know, but I was trying really hard to work with everybody on this, keep everybody happy, but as we all know, that doesn't always happen. So, and I don't want this to turn into any more. My whole concern with
The red tape is frustrating for Keys because he already knows that, at the very least, he is looking at a sentence of life in prison.
In all of this, and I know what's going to happen. If I have to do it, I will. But if I have to take the next step and just freaking, it's going to turn into even more of a Cuban circus and more
that nobody wants.
Right, and nobody wants that, and I don't think they want that. So that's why I thought it was in everyone's best interest that that we could all have a meeting, at all parties involved. But once again, sit down and have a meeting, just like in the beginning. Like when there was no question about the legality or whether this was proper or improper. You know what? It was all There was nothing weird or unusual about that. It was a standard interview, and there was no objections or court orders or paperwork or petitions. You know, all this stuff that's happened since then, it seems like it's done nothing. It hasn't changed anything. I still come over here and talk to you about stuff. It hasn't changed any of that. It hasn't changed my bottom line at all. All it's done is made everything more complicated for everyone else involved. And at the bottom of that, I don't get a straight answer on anything. Well, I mean, maybe I have been. I hope I have been, at least on a few things, but definitely not on everything. Because I'm not there. I don't know. I don't see all the emails. I don't see all the paperwork. I don't hear what's said. You know, and it's not even that I want to hear or know all that stuff, but I'd at least like to hear and know about the stuff that pertains to me and what my interest in it is. So.
I think one of their concerns, and I think we all share it, is that yesterday's actions, regardless of why you took them, are just going to create new hurdles for them. From the standpoint of, I mean, literally they had something, I really think it was just about agreed to. It may have even been agreed to, and I just don't know it. But like I said, we saw a draft version of the letter that had, I think, everything that you discussed or wanted. So they had achieved that, and then that stuff yesterday has now endangered that. In addition, you know, I think they're concerned now that maybe you have a different agenda than what you've told us because you were very specific. You know, I don't want any media attention. This has created a bit of a frenzy. I gotta believe that your next court appearance is going to be standing.
There's going to be what?
There's probably going to be a lot of vigilantes guarding the door on that one.
I'm afraid there's going to be, you know, there was only a couple meet and greet people there yesterday. I'm afraid tomorrow's going to have a fair amount more media people, unfortunately.
And then arguably one of the probably biggest potential hurdles now is, you know, we know you've indicated that you want to represent yourself on the things for which you're not charged, and this could be a huge hurdle now that didn't previously exist.
Right. No, I get that, yeah.
These are all things that all of us are thinking about, but to be honest, they're probably more focused on it than the rest of us. And you may not have thought about those things, but that's what they're mulling over.
Right. No, I get that. I get what you're saying. And honestly, I really hadn't thought of it at all until you mentioned it. I was concerned about the media coverage, not really thinking about the effect it would have on the things we've discussed, thinking more about, you know, that is my bottom line. I didn't want a bunch of press and didn't want a bunch of drama. And honestly, I could have lived with the drama as long as I had been successful in escaping. But since I didn't, now I'm like, man, I really wish I hadn't created all this drama.
Well, maybe we could step out and make a phone call over and just express some things. You know, just let them know some concerns. I don't know what the specific questions are. It sounds like they're probably questions that wouldn't be able to be answered in this setting with the people that are here.
No, probably not. But I mean, you get the gist of what I'm saying. And I'm not.
I appreciate that, your honesty. And
I have no problem with other people speaking for me. You know, the bottom line is I get to make all the decisions in the end. I'm not going to be coerced or tricked into something that I don't know getting into at this point. So, yeah, I mean, if you need to pass on, in your own words, whatever you think is going on, go for it, you know, and the more communication we have on the issue, the quicker it can get resolved, and I can get to the bottom of whatever's going on in my end. So
Keys has addressed his issues and is now mildly regretting the escape attempt. He had hoped to have limited coverage in the media in an effort to shield his daughter, but this has drawn unwanted attention.
All right, well, let us step out for a minute and we'll be back.
All right.
Israel, how you doing?
All right.
Hey, Israel, how you doing?
All right.
Elvis is back east in some meetings this week, but I figured it'd be a good opportunity to update you on some of the developments that go on.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I go through that usual advisement first.
All right.
As you know, we're important things here, so we got the step on I just want to confirm some of the stuff that we talked about at the jail. We didn't interrupt the meeting with your attorneys when we arrived here today, did we?
No.
And it's your choice to come here, as always, and you're here voluntarily, is that correct?
Yes.
And you understand we can't talk about anything that has to do with Samantha Koenig. If we do, or if you start talking about that, we'll have to stop the interview and transport you back to jail. You understand that, right?
Yes.
I'm going to run through your Miranda rights here real quick. I know we've got through this quite a few times, so we'll run through them again. Before we ask any questions, you must understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you questions. You have the right to have a lawyer with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, he will be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you have the right to stop answering questions at any time. Do you understand these rights as I've explained them to you?
Yes.
Okay. And with this advisory in mind, are you willing to waive your rights and speak to us today?
Yes.
As you know, you've got standby counsel that's been appointed in this matter. I believe it's Rich Kirkner and Jacqueline Walsh. Do you have any desire to have either one of them present today?
No.
For any attorney whatsoever?
No.
Have you been taking any medications or any other substances in the past 24 hours?
No.
Are you having any difficulty understanding where you're at, what's going on?
No.
All right. That takes care of things.
Okay.
So I just wanted to update you on where we were and where we are now with the discussion with the state authorities in Vermont. You know, we talked about trying to get that agreement with them.
Right.
And we do have a letter. And I'll show you the letter and give you some time to read it. This letter is dated May 23rd in 2012, which was last Wednesday. But since this point, we've had some opportunity to discuss the contents of the letter with Vermont. They still stand by everything in the letter. And I can certainly share with you emails to that effect. But let me let you read this thing. Copy of those too.
Keys reads over the papers he has been given to make sure he understands what they're going to be talking about, to ensure he doesn't discuss anything that he isn't allowed to without his lawyer.
And then you got a third building?
Yeah.
Did you guys have animals there at one point? Not like dogs and cats, but like animals in one of these commercial barns. That's what they said. It looked like it, because there's some hay or straw and stuff still around. This was a box with like first sheet. Was there a receipt on there? You can't really see it in the picture. There was an invoice for some guns and ammo back in 1994. On top. Do you remember what that was for?
I recognize some old books vaguely, but it's been a while since I've been carrying that stuff.
Did you have a place up there that you could buy guns?
No, not in New York. I never bought guns officially. I was always under the table.
Okay. We'll get the invoice, because they said the invoice was in your name in March of 94.
I had a gun on me? 3 had to do
That's what I thought. I thought it had a gun on it. That was my interpretation, but I'll have them send up the invoice so we can look at it.
Keys has a good memory for the location since he spent a portion of his childhood there. After such a length of time, it might be difficult to recall exactly how he pulled off this robbery. Keys planned things out carefully and tried to avoid repeating details from location to location, so a pattern could not be determined.
Bunch of maps. What was yours?
Yeah.
Anything we should be
Before the
looking
days
for?
of the computer. Any X's on them anywhere? Anything? No.
Should be looking for?
X's on my map.
Highlight. Highlight.
The only map we found that had highlighting on it, I didn't do highlighting. Who did the highlighting on it? I don't know. I just found the map.
What about the map that when you
I
were?
think there was one in the car that was highlighted. When I was arrested, yeah. Yeah, but I didn't do the highlighting. That's all. I know that's what they were thinking.
Well, it was the interstate that was highlighted, and
Right.
you don't seem to really be an interstate kind of person.
No, that's just only.
A couple other things. There's a mattress out in the woods.
Yeah.
Do you know what that was from?
No.
There were some clothes under it. There were some women's clothes under it.
No, I mean, you're not going to find anything relevant on the property.
They were up. They were underneath it. And then this is a photo from the fire pit area behind the house.
Oh, yeah.
It's a ring. It's like a men's ring. And these are some like beads from a necklace.
Huh. Yeah, I haven't burned anything in that pit for a long time, so. Anything that you found in there is probably from hunters or somebody who's camping there. So, I mean, there hasn't been any. I put a gate across the road. As soon as my folks moved out of that place, but it only stayed up for a year or two, and then hunters cut it down.
What are they hunting? What's there?
Whitetail.
Was there ever a time that you burned anything of significance in that fire pit?
No, not a brief.
Anything related to crimes?
Possibly, but nothing. This is all
Nothing
ancient.
like this.
Yeah, no, this is all ancient. Before I haven't really spent much time there ever since I was modern.
So this isn't going to be a ring to somebody that we need to be worried about.
No.
One of the problems with such an old scene is that so many people have contaminated it, and it can be difficult or even impossible to determine what is evidence and what is unrelated to the crime.
I think they're actually for... These are actually duplicates of others. Do you have any questions about this stuff? We're going to get all of this up here, and so once we get it up here, we can pull it out. Like, we'll grab this stuff to see what that is. What the invoices,
Okay.
some of this other stuff. You know who's that belongs to?
Yeah.
We'll bring it in when we get it.
Sure.
So I think that. Anything
You said
about
trip
this?
down memory lane.
Yeah,
There
it
it
was. You know,
Anything?
I didn't even realize I still had anything in there. I'm
Yeah,
guessing all that stuff was in the garage or something. Or?
It was spread out. I think the box was in the garage. I don't remember where some of the other, like there were, some of the other specific stuff. But I know the box. Pretty sure the box was in the garage.
Huh.
And I think you can finish this quick too. So I had this stuff laid out to show you. Is this place looking there?
Yeah.
I think we maybe even showed you these before. I don't know
No,
if
I
you did
saw
or
the
not.
ones that were done.
Okay, yeah,
Was
these
that
were.
as they found it?
Yeah. They might have pulled something away.
Just so
or-
you can see where
Okay.
about where it was.
I was gonna say I thought it kind of camouflaged.
Yeah, that was sort of like walking up on it. You can see it. We got a report. We got all this stuff sent it into the lab. That's what we do with everything that we get. And the tray that has the ammo in there, there's a perfect right thumbprint.
Yeah, right.
No, there is. I don't have the lab report.
Wow. Uh-oh.
So, more CSI stuff.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Well, I'm disappointed in myself mostly, but I'm glad.
The lab examiner called me. I don't have the report. When I get the report, I'll show you the report. But I'm not being silly. It was on one of these two on the plastic tray inside.
Oh. Plastic tray, huh? Like these pieces must be the plastic, like the bottom view or the top view. Okay. Slides into that cardboard sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was kind of in a hurry, I guess. I'm too lazy to even dig a hole for that one. Just pile of rocks. Were you planning on going back for that? Yeah, this summer. That would have been a good trip. I still can't get over the disappeared house in Vermont thing. You have big plans for this summer? Back there? Well, I'm gonna go back there. I just picture driving up, looking everywhere for that farmhouse and not being able to find it. To burn it down? Yeah, that would have been funny. But whatever, you guys did that for me.
Speaking of Vermont.
Yeah, speaking of Vermont, we were talking to Vermont on Monday. And they want to know what's going on. And they are interested in filing charges as they have been all along. So, federal? Well, you don't know. No. I mean, we talked to both the state and federal prosecutors on Monday. And we want to know what we should tell them from your perspective. Well, it's a little hard to talk about my general overall perspective right now for obvious reasons. So. We'll just tell us your perspective. I understand that, and we're not going to.
Keyes' good humor evaporates when he is told that Vermont is wanting to prosecute him. This was something he was hoping to avoid by making a deal in Alaska.
Do that, but we are interested in your perspective on the Courier murders because that's what they're interested in. And
they're also interested in your cooperation on other crimes and where that stands and whether you intend to follow through on some of that. So that's the kind of thing that they're looking for from us.
Well, like I've said all along, my cooperation on other crimes is dependent on what's going on with crimes that I'm already charged with. And I said that all along. I'm losing interest in the legal process. Well, you've known, and we've talked about this quite a bit, that Vermont is willing to be patient if they think that there's forward momentum on talking about the crimes. I know that you don't care about that from the perspective of the families of other victims, but Vermont does. And so there's a way to meet in the middle by giving something that they can then have. No, they don't need to know the details of it, but they need to know we've gotten some details so that they can continue to hold off. I just don't understand why, even from a legal perspective, I don't understand what the hurry is and what their issue is as to why they want to file additional charges, when I'm clearly already charged with substantial ones. Well, in Vermont, you've got state prosecutors who right now have an unsolved, according to the public, unsolved murder of the Couriers. Right? So the law enforcement is under a lot of pressure.
They get calls from the press. They're telling us every week, to a different state prosecutors are elected, so I think they probably feel more of an obligation.
Keyes is not in a position to understand or appreciate the difficulties the Vermont police are facing. They are aware that he is responsible for the murder, but as far as the public knows, there is no suspect, and it seems as if the police are doing nothing.
But since they've called off the search for the bodies, as far as the public knows, they can't even definitively say that it was a homicide. I know they already told everybody it was. They know that. Vermont. Right. I know. So Vermont, as you know, let's just be a really realistic approach to it. The state prosecutor in Vermont, you want him to come out and say, hey, here are the charges. We've got the guy, case solved. That's what you want to do. Right. So you need to give them a reason to say, don't do that.
If you don't want me to do that. I mean, if that's the...
Well, like I say, my perspective at this point is they're asking for a reason for me to give them a reason not to do that, and I have no reason to suspect that at this point that any further information I give is going to be used or portrayed to the media in the way that I'm told it will be or won't be, just because that's the way it's played out so far. So if they're saying I guess what I'm saying is, from my perspective at this point, it's a one-way street, and initially I thought there were ways that I could manipulate this situation, this case, all the related cases, to my benefit and on my timeline by withholding information and giving information out. And obviously, over the last few months, I came to the realization that I can't do that, not realistically. So,
is that your real reason?
Yeah.
I think we talked about for a while, an idea of this whole resolution on the Courier case, being able to kind of structure that disposition around some of the demands. And we touched upon that, and a little bit. We can't talk about the other case, but
right.
It seems to me that if you give us a list of demands in connection with a federal case on the couriers, that we can try to at least start meeting those demands, and at least say, to Vermont State that there's an expression of intent to continue cooperation in exchange for these types of things.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The problem is I don't have any typical demands, or there's not anything you can offer me at this point. And I realize that now. I realize that there's more to these cases than the people who sit in this room, and we're not the ones who pull all the strings on this. I'm realistic about that.
After many failed attempts at negotiation, Keyes has finally realized that there is very little that he can expect in his position.
Because of things that have happened over the last couple months, I just feel like there's a lot of information that I've given out to date that 20/20 hindsight I wouldn't have given out, because I feel like now, no matter what I do, it's going to become public anyway. Whereas if I hadn't given it out, it wouldn't have, because you wouldn't have it, the information to give out in the first place.
Well, I mean, from our perspective, we've done a lot to respect your wishes about keeping the publicity low on this case. And I think if you recall, you've even told us that you understand that we've done that. Now, over time, as things have slowed down, we haven't learned about other crimes, then the FBI and the authorities around the country have to take certain steps. Right? I think the search warrant is an example that, they said, hey, look, give us a reason to tell their bosses why they didn't even do a search warrant at Kimberly's house. Why they didn't even report, but they didn't have any reason. So I think you can see that we can have a lot of control when we have some information from you and cooperation from you. If we don't, then we all lose control.
And even Vermont's letter that I recall, they had this letter about, all right, provide this, and we just kind of sit back and we don't get involved. And that's the thrust of that letter. And I think what happened in Vermont after that was sort of a function of, that's sort of not going along with that deal And so I think that's what ended up happening there. I understand the perspective, but at the same time, I think there is a way to structure a deal around the couriers to satisfy some of your goals. Maybe not every one of them. But, we can't do that unless, we sort of have an exchange for future cooperation. Here's what I want to happen in the courier case. If we have that, I think that's a little bit more concrete to that.
The only reason the courier case is even become an issue is because of me wanting to keep control of that situation before it became a situation. That's why we talked about it in the first place. Those loose ends, whatever you want to call it. That was my concern. As far as long term, clearly the whole situation is going to turn into longer term than I anticipated, even from my perspective. And so my position on it at this point is you're asking for more information, and I am still waiting to see what happens with the information I've already given. So essentially, what can happen is it becomes a one-way street until I see what comes out the other end on some of these other issues.
Well, we're also looking at from what you expressed earlier, the time frame. You all said we're going to be sitting here a year from now, and this was going back 4 months or 5 months. So we're getting a lot closer, I think, to the year from now. Because we've also talked about the way that Vermont initially came out. We were all kind of hadn't fully prepared for what could happen in Vermont, right? You said it, we've said it. And we've learned things from how we dealt with Vermont that would not necessarily need to be repeated in other jurisdictions. So we have information about written in other jurisdictions. We can approach them without even giving them any details.
I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like there's been several, I don't want to say breach of trust, because I know we don't trust each other, but based on initial things that were said verbally, nothing in writing. I know we didn't have agreements hard and fast. I just feel like, especially with the last search warrants that were executed, it was done in a way that was clearly contrary to what...
The police have kept their promises to the best of their ability, but their first priority is justice for the victims.
My initial intentions were for the way this whole thing would play out. And, I hear what you're saying as far as it has to be done, but what I'm doubtful about is the motivation for doing it. Your motivation, or the FBI, whoever sanctioned that, their motivation for doing it in the way that they did it.
Well, hey, like you said, you're going to be suspicious of us, we're going to be suspicious of you, but frankly, when we've sat down in this room, everyone here is trying to play straight with you. And I think if you understand the reality of the situation, and you're a pretty reality-based guy, you understand how the world works, is once you stop telling us significant information about other crimes, then these guys couldn't control what the rest of the FBI is going to do. And the playbook says, if you've got a serial killer, you're going to have to go through that house, right, with a fine-tooth comb. Even though they can say, hey, Israel's told us there's nothing there. Well, they're going to do it. And the only way to hold that off is to say, well, look, he's cooperating, he's giving us information. But when you stop, then there's going to be consequences. We're trying to be as reality-based about this thing. We've always given you what we thought was actually going to happen in the real world. And it's the same thing from Vermont. You know, if we had more information in Vermont, maybe Vermont would have been a whole lot more quiet and cooperative. As it is, they've been really cooperative, right? They haven't filed any charges, but, you know, how long can we hold on from them without another piece of information?
So, you know, I mean, you're a reasonable person. Don't you think it? Use somebody else for an example. This type of case, someone who's not cooperating and not talking with law enforcement. Don't you think that this would have been viral across the United States, every place you've ever been? Don't you think that? I mean, if you hadn't been talking to us, we don't have any other choice but to try to do it on our own and use all the information that we put together about you and your whereabouts and put it out to those communities for help. And we haven't done that because you've been talking with us. I mean,
even the stuff we've done, I mean, you guys did, I think, a pretty good job, even on the search warrants. There were statements in the press that were looking for evidence of other crimes. And, you know, no one stood in front of a camera and did that. I mean, yeah, cameras, you know, may have shown up, but no one said a word. You know, and hopes to still moving forward on this.
And you only be so discreet about doing something on like a street that's 6 houses long.
Well, especially if you block it off.
Yeah, I mean, but well, we were trying to prevent people who we didn't want there to, you know, to getting into that, but you can't stop.
I'm just saying, yeah, you've got to go by your playbook, but I refuse to accept that there weren't ways you couldn't have been more discreet or more. You know, that's just my impression. I have nothing to go on other than what I see and my gut feeling on stuff at this point, because I feel like I get the trickle-down bullshit from all parties involved. So, you know, that may or may not be the case, but that's just where I feel like I'm at right now.
Right, we can't change your feeling, but we can, I mean, we've always come into this room trying to give you the straight scoop. And we try to deal with you that way because we know that you're a smart guy and you know how the world works. And what I'm sensing, what you're telling me now is you're trying to, you know, look at us as if we've been, you know, manipulating you somehow.
No, I don't think anyone in this room has been manipulating. That's not my concern right now. My concern, you know, you're asking for more information. You talked about it going viral. If I give you any more information and it somehow gets out and it gets in the paper again, you know, one more snippet of information could push the whole thing over the edge, you know, and then for the time being, as many times as it's been in the paper and there's still all this speculation, it hasn't really taken off.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I know it's because you haven't been giving official statements that you could, which I do appreciate that aspect of it. What I'm saying is,
the story has been kept as quiet as possible. The original leak was never verified as coming from the police department.
Until I know what's going to happen with certain current issues, my big concern is that another rumor gets out. It doesn't have to come from you, just another rumor from somebody, I don't know. And then, you know, I'm no longer in touch with all the different, I don't even know what's being said in the media or what has been said about the stories. I see little snippets here and there, but that's my concern, is that, you know, if something else were to get out, and especially in a different area or something, then you know, and now there's the whole Nia Bay aspect of it now too. You know, like my kids live in Nia Bay now, and gossip is the town pastime. So that's my concern right now. Is it doesn't even have to be. I feel like at this point it wouldn't even have to be something that was confirmed. It could just be a rumor. And
well, you're not going to get rumors coming out from us, and you haven't so far. The stuff that's come out is when the people outside of this room feel like that you're not being forthcoming.
Right.
And I know we can be advocates for how we want to pursue this case, but we need something. We need material. We need currency. We need something to advocate with. And that's what that's exactly what we've told you for the last 6 months or more.
Yeah, I understand that.
So,
what about just the idea of, and just thinking along the lines of what you can tell them how to just sort of stand down, even just a clue that doesn't give up anything, from your perspective, but at least gives everybody something to work with behind the scenes, nothing that we, have to kind of go and publicize to the world. But a clue about, one of the past murders that it's really not going to reveal anything. So you're not playing any cards, but at least where then going back to these guys' bosses and to Vermont and saying, look, you've given us a clue in exchange for this sort of discretion for everybody to kind of stand down, so to speak.
Well, first of all, I don't know. You already have.
Sure.
You already have a lot of clues that I don't know about. You have that computer.
So you wouldn't be giving anything away.
I'm just saying I think you have a lot of background on me at this point. I'm sure that I don't even remember at this point. So
The bosses above us, though, don't know what's on that computer. Beth and I know what's on that computer. So let's just use Frank's example for a second. So if you were to give us a clue, they don't know. Our bosses don't know what. I'm being recorded. Our bosses don't know what is on that computer. So they're not going to know.
Next time.
So they're not going to know if we already knew that or not.
Vermont doesn't know either. They haven't seen the evidence. So you could be giving us nothing, but at least it's something we report to them.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
reported that he committed a murder in X day. Okay, a big deal. It's not going to give us anything after, given the timeline that you set forward, 14 years, but at least it's some sort of sign of progress. We can go back and say, no, he's actually given us a clue and things are moving forward, and they can sort of feel good about themselves and not doing.
when you say clue, are you talking about giving me names?
No.
Or what?
Give the name, but give us the name of
a
the
state or something.
state and a time frame. Hey,
You already know some of the states.
sure. But give us something that we progress from where we were months ago. Is what we're looking for. Means nothing. Frank hadn't talked about this clue idea, but something that we don't. Obviously, you can tell us something we already have discussed in here. That's not progress.
Because everybody knows what's been discussed in here, but let's assume it's something from your perspective, you're not giving us anything because you think, hey, we already have it, it's a clue, and it's just something that gives us credibility that we can report, even though maybe this is just a fiction. You give us New York, New Jersey, all right, well, I'm going to go to New Jersey, or something other things that we can kind of report back that allows us a little bit of credibility with the people that we interview.
Right. Something.
Did you find any knives in New York or in the boat?
Keyes typically preferred to strangle his victims and usually used knives to intimidate or cut up a victim. Keyes only used guns when he felt it was absolutely necessary.
Folding knives. They're about 6 inches long.
I don't know. I think there might have been in the boat. You told us you thought there was knives in the boat, right?
There's 2 knives that were not in Kimberly's house, and I don't know where they were. I thought they were in that bucket. I thought that they were. I may have left one in New York, I thought there might have been on the boat. Just knives that I had from a long time ago. But I haven't seen them in any of the pictures, so I don't.
Yes, Ted.
I can find out about the boat. I don't think there was a knife on the boat. I don't remember a knife being in the bucket though. In the photos.
The knife. Well, there was a folding knife.
Then why is that knife?
Well, it's a folding knife, so I don't know. You took it apart and like,
Would there be blood on the knife?
there, well, the knife, not on it, but inside.
Is the kind that has the handles are actually bolted or screwed to it or something. It's not a solid piece, nothing you can disassemble it in some manner.
Yeah.
Is Would the blood be from a long time ago or just the neck?
No, the blood's not from a long time ago, but I haven't carried it for a while, so I can't remember where I left it.
Any other places where it might be?
No, I don't.
What was in the boat was a long time ago.
Well,
2005.
right. Yeah. I mean, they're both times that I got before that.
And would those be associated with the Washington murders?
Yeah.
On those lines, while I'm waiting for Ted to respond.
Ted's the guy that was Law and Crime. He's the one who did the road search.
From Ted, on those lines. We talked to someone out at the lab when we were talking about, when the time comes when you decide that you want to give additional information so that we're prepared on what we need to do to be able to respond quickly. We asked about, what are the chances of if there is someone that is somebody that if there's a body at the bottom of the lake, what are the chances of that body still being intact 7 years later, that kind of thing? What are we going to be looking for, and what do we need to have in place in order to be able to find that? And one of the things that they said, which might be of interest to you, is depending on how the body was put down there, it's possible that the body is actually very intact. If the body was just tied to something and dropped into the bottom of the lake, there's definitely still going to be long bones and that kind of stuff. You won't have pain bones and that kind of stuff. There'll be femurs and long bones and that kind of thing. If the body was contained in something, even a bag of some sort, it's very possible that the body could still be intact, depending on the depth of the lake. All of that determines the kind of equipment that we would need in order to locate the body.
There's a chance the bodies could be recovered if Keys will tell the detectives how he disposed of them.
And so, obviously not asking for details about where and who and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the Washington bodies, were they contained in something, or were they just tied to the milk jugs? I mean, is it something where we might possibly actually still get it intact?
No.
No. Okay. And that's helpful for them to know, because that's a whole different type of search that it would have to be in a different place of people.
Yep.
This is not answered as much.
And I guess, because I'm kind of getting a different vibe now, do you still envision in the future us working together to the point where we can get this information?
Yeah, I don't see how we're going to get anything else done. I just,
I mean, you're waiting for, whatever you're waiting for to find out. But
yeah, I have concerns with current issues, but, I can definitely foresee down the road that there's going to be a lot more that can be resolved.
Okay. And that's good.
By going about it in a different manner.
Well, but that's good information, because we'll be able to pass that on if you're still open and you're still...
No, I haven't. My outlook on this, as far as the ultimate end result, hasn't really changed. It's just has more to do with timelines, expectations. I guess.
But and the balancing game that we're talking about doing is we're just trying to keep everybody happy the best we can till we get to that point, and that's kind of a difficult balancing act for us.
Right. It sounds like you're holding on to some of this stuff, the trade-in, for something you might need later.
True. Well, yeah. I don't have much else.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Is, this whole clue idea it might give us a little short-term solution to kind of keep this thing moving the way we want it to move. And maybe even gets you something in the short term. You know, if you're thinking about, like, I don't know, you know, you probably give a clue and, you know, you want lunch or something like that. I mean, that's something that can be worked out.
You need a candy bar.
I know, that's what I think, you know, I don't know if he feels guilty about it. But
If you had a cigar, you'd probably pass out if you had a cigar right now.
But I mean, the notion of this whole idea is, you know, hey, you come over, we keep things going, you know, at least on a smaller scale. You're not giving up anything in terms of trading value, but you're giving us credibility with other people we have to deal with. You're not giving us any useful information really, other than, all right, well, we got, you know, a night in Washington. It's not like we're going to solve the clue game and have, like, you know, Professor Plum in the library, that kind of thing. But it gives us a little bit of, you know, stuff to go back with people and buy time and buy what we need to buy. And, you know, in the short term, you know, if you have short-term needs that you think, oh, you know, it might be fun to have sushi. That's something that can be arranged. We're not talking about, you know, huge clues here.
What did you guys find in the boat? Was there anything left?
I thought we went over Ted fully.
I saw the list.
There was no knife. Oh, you mean in terms of the lab?
Yeah.
It has not. Everything has not gone to finished up at DNA yet. So it's possible that there were still.
The results might be available very quickly. Many labs are so backed up with cases that it can take months.
There were some areas that did test positive for blood, just when they do like they call it the presumptive test, when the people that were searching it. So those things went into the lab, and some of those things were like the screws from holding the carpeting in and that kind of thing. Those have not come back yet from DNA. The little, there were some little fragments that they thought might have been bone fragment, was not bone, did not test positive for bone. That one's come back. Yeah, they didn't. We didn't ask what it was, but it wasn't bone. There's some hair that is not yours. But the way they figure out hair.
I was mostly curious if they found any blood.
Yeah, there was.
I wasn't sure how long, because it's been sitting there in the rain for so long. I was curious if there was. I mean, I know there was when I parked it. But
yeah, there was. We haven't heard anything back about it. And then they need something to compare it with.
Right.
So there's no knife?
No, there was no knife in the boat.
It may have been. I don't know what happened to that knife. It was a Tonto, cold steel Tonto.
How big? Like, was it
It had it was a 4.5 inch folding blade.
Okay.
And I think I bought it at Walmart.
Do you remember what color it was?
It looks very similar to the one that I had on me when I was arrested. Just a different blade style. Same company.
So if I'm correct about that, that was the murder weapon for one of the Washington murders.
Well, it was involved.
It was involved.
I think we talked about before was when we were asking about federal jurisdiction about guns.
Yeah.
Were either of those victims shot?
No.
Yeah. Strangled.
We'll get the whole story eventually.
You can get parts of it.
No, the only person I ever shot was Bill Courier.
Everybody else is shot.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to have the wrong impression, you know. So everybody else was strangled or was there something else? So one of the Washington things that was there. It's just no, it wasn't straight. I hit somebody in the head. So.
Did you mean to kill them or they died? Was there a struggle and you hit them and they died, or did you mean to kill them?
No. I wasn't trying to kill him. I just took him out of action.
You read that in one of those letters for the mail. You were keeping that couple.
Yeah. I saw it. Rich mentioned that they gave you all that stuff. I should have asked them to give me a copy so I know which ones you have.
We could go over that together and you could fill in the blanks.
Keyes jokes that he should make a list of the victims he has told the detectives about so he doesn't get mixed up. But he may be more serious than his attitude suggests.
Well, we know.
I didn't realize they were allowed to take stuff out of my sold it. I wasn't naming it. That was pretty sick.
Well, we know that there was a couple in Washington State, a male female couple. We read that. Are those the same couple from that you took to the boat and dumped in the lake? Or are they up?
They went in that hole.
No.
Yeah. They're buried. Yeah, that was wow.
That was a long time ago. Right after the military. Is that right after the military? You told me it was right after the military. After you got out of the military.
Before I got the boat.
And you had told us one time that, it wasn't long when you got out of the military that you killed somebody, and it was that sort of feeling that you needed to do something. It was hard to resist.
Yeah, you're based on orange.
Is it fair to say that we're looking at a lot more around the Washington area? No. Just the two in Washington?
Mm-hmm. No, there's a couple. There's a couple in Washington, and then there's two. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we can't find this knife, I guess unfortunately that doesn't give us much to go on.
And as we took, I know we had some knives. I don't know what else we had.
I think that's some of the Kimberly's.
Is it possible it was at Kimberly's?
I don't think so. I haven't seen it for
Could be in a different Washington cache.
No. Well, the other caches aren't related to any. That one in New York is the only one directly with the murderer's part. The guns, some of the guns are still.
Well, that would give us something to go on if there was a cache that they could go and retrieve.
Yeah.
That would keep the FBI busy.
Yeah. I'll have to think about which ones I want to part with.
That's right.
If you thought
It all still belongs to me.
Have a candy bar.
if you thought of one that you wanted to give up, then maybe we might be able to work something out with our videos.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, that's another issue. Is the others I can't find just a satellite map. So
Yeah.
I could get the general area.
Yeah. Well, if you gave them a general area, they could probably get some.
We just have to have enough information to get a hold of the exact person.
That covers that area.
Right.
Certain questions cause Keys to become reticent. It is likely that he isn't disclosing all of his victims.
So again, it would be a cash. It's not related to anything. So you're really not giving up any of your cards to trade with.
Well, that's the issue. They're all related to stuff. They're just, I just have to think about it.
Well,
You want to try and remember what's in.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of interesting for you too. You'll get to see what's in there, and you'll get to see them again.
Yeah, and then it's
Maybe
like one of those oh shit moments. You dig it up and I see what's in there.
Israel, there's been too many oceans.
Yeah, well, I've had enough. I've had my share for the year.
Well, this is just the way. Well, why don't you, if you were able to do that, and you're just going to buy us and give everybody something to do, and people like to have something to do, they can be big enough as cash. And then you'll get to see how the video works, and you'll get to see what's in there.
How long does a body last in a freshwater lake? I mean, 'cause there's no critters.
It depends how deep. I learned a lot.
It depends on the temperature of the water.
And if the body's contained in something.
And it's not critters, it can be like
bacteria,
organisms.
They were talking
So if the water is below, say, 45 degrees all the time.
I don't think that would be good. I think you said they up to 80 feet at one point in time before.
No, there's one that's even a lot deeper.
Like 200 feet.
So we should get a submarine.
Or deeper. Deeper than 200 feet.
You guys know about Lake Crescent in Washington?
How deep is it?
I think that lake is 500 to 700 feet deep. They've never been to the bottom of it. There's people who have gone off that lake, and they still haven't found their cars.
And that's the lake.
That's one of the lakes.
So this is really deep. So this, and you're never going to be able to recover.
Well, it's
You
over
said
200 feet.
I said 500 feet.
That's the
lake.
deepest part, but
Oh.
I'm saying I don't know how deep it was. I know the general area, and I had a fish finder, but it didn't register how deep it was. I just know it was over it.
Maxed out at 100 feet.
Oh, is that your fish finder goes to 100?
I don't remember. I just know if you've been to the lake, you would see what I'm talking about. It drops down like a V. So,
But you didn't go to the 500-foot places, right?
No, I wasn't. I was near the edge, but 30 feet out from the bank on that lake, it drops down to 50, 60 feet already. Anyway.
The lab was talking about a case recently, actually, where they recovered a car that had been submerged in water. I don't know how deep it was even in, but it was a relatively cold lake, and because it had been submerged and water still got in, but critters and others weren't able to get in the car. That was in the 1940s, and part of the body was still intact because the person was protected by the car. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. But there will definitely, even if there wasn't skin or things like that, long bones will leave, can be recovered.
Rivers change over time, especially if there are floods, droughts, or nearby construction. Even if Keys describes exactly where he placed them, the location might be hard to find.
Yeah, I know. Nobody.
But if there's other specifics in terms of things that you know of depths and temperatures and that kind of stuff, you can certainly make some phone calls and find out what.
Well, I figured you would have guessed that. That was pretty obvious. But I always have been curious as to what it looked like. I would think as deep as that lake is, it's probably sitting there just exactly as it was when I first touched it. I know most freshwater lakes that deep, there aren't even that many fish that go down that deep.
But that one's not in anything, it's just ropes or something molded.
Is that the milk jugs that you said?
Well, that's what the weights were.
Milk jugs. How many milk jugs? You're going to move around.
No.
How many milk jugs?
At least 4 or 5.
Just for one body.
Yeah.
Well, what about a cache that they can work on for next week?
Well, the easiest would be Washington. So I know my way around there a little better.
The agents are ready.
But I have to. I'll think about it.
I'm trying to remember what's in it.
Do you want them to line it up? That's the thing. We can't make a decision that day because they won't have time to. Yeah, they won't have time to line it up.
You think about it over the weekend. Yeah. But you think about it over the weekend or something?
Yeah.
If there's anything you want, like,
Should give me like an hour on the internet, maybe.
Sure.
Before we do this.
You want an hour on the
You do a little research. I've been an info blackout for too long.
I think that's, you think about that, and if there's anything you want short term in terms of.
I was joking, I wouldn't do that anyway.
No, I'm not talking about the internet. I'm talking about, like, if you want some sort of, right, I'm going to do this, but,
You wouldn't do that on the internet if we set a computer out here?
Oh, man, you're just going to go right to everywhere I went.
I wouldn't do that to you. But yeah, no, anything, to kind of satisfy any short-term goals you have, even if it's just food or coffee or, whatever. Obviously, it's coffee anywhere. But, again, it's sort of a situation where I think you're not giving up anything. You're just giving us help with where we need to persuade.
Right.
I think
No, I can see I see your point of view. I do on this, but at the same time, I have my own frustrations right now as well. So,
But even like this is productive. This will be used productive. You said you came over, we got stuff, and so
it's only productive from a non-prosecuting attorney.
It's productive to us.
Bella's sure got me on enough stuff. It's okay. It's okay. I'm
not
getting out on bail anytime
you keep
soon.
thinking that I'm not trying to work with you. I am, but from my perspective, Israel said he's going to do a lot of things in a short time frame, and we've been sitting here, looking months away. And
believe me, I'm aware of the months. I'm just. I have an appreciation for things being done at a different speed. That's all.
So let me just make sure I'm clear on the cache. Do you have a general area now that you can give us, or do you want to think about it?
Washington, right?
But I mean, even there's
the two
it's a big
districts.
state. We have offices in a bunch of places, so we have to figure out which office we're working with.
Maybe 50 or 100 miles away.
Is there anything close to Nia Bay or
Oh
that
yeah,
area?
yeah. Not near New Bay, but in there.
That area? Okay.
outside of Seattle, between Seattle and Seattle.
Right. You already met those agents already, so that's not
Yes.
bringing new people.
Can I see that top picture?
There's more pictures from this too. I didn't grab them all. I can print them all out and have them for you next time. I know there were a couple lot of gun parts and pieces, but I don't know any close to this one.
The detectives have a large supply of photos to help aid Keyes' memory.
Okay, so do you want me to try to set that up for next week? I don't know. I'm obviously not going to know a day until
From Port Angeles there.
somewhere.
Yeah, I don't set up a time yet. I gotta try and remember.
Once you get the computer, right now.
Is that going to help
An
you?
area?
Google, you can look at Google right now. If you want.
Well, you know the area. Right? He's
I know
trying.
the area.
He's
I'm trying to remember what's in it.
trying to remember what he has.
That's probably not going to be able to do.
No. We can try that together. We'll just open it up and do a Al Capone calls.
It's not that impressive. It's just,
I was more concerned about the little stuff that might be in it. On the Tupper Lake thing, you had agents up there with the cameras, but you just wanted to talk about the bank robbery, or were you?
Well, what we had set up was we just had them at the bank robbery parking lot to show you the live feed that we could do.
We can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't have any expectations, but we thought the natural progression, because of what we've been talking, would be in that general area, so we wanted to get things moving there.
Right.
You know, and if you wanted to just like pull out of the parking lot and then take us to the river bend, that's all the better.
Well,
but
yeah, it was just.
You would be driving.
Yeah, it would be like you'd be driving. So, because we thought maybe that's how it's going to have to be eventually. Maybe is that you might have to be in the driver's seat, so to speak, to see, landmarks or whatever you need to see.
Yeah. Almost as good as being out.
I'd like to tell you we were going to drive you to the dig site and we were going to show you what we were doing, but
I'm having a harder time remembering roads than Port Angeles, so I wasn't. I'm sure I can figure it out.
well, you need that hour or two.
No, I just haven't. All right. Well,
So we won't set it up.
We'll get them working on it though, because
Get the tech.
Yeah, the tech geeky guy has to
Their geek
get
squad.
the camera and get everything all kind of set up.
Keys doesn't pay much attention to the plans. Perhaps he already knew that he would not be alive for more than a few days. I just wanted to let you know real quick that my merch shop, StrangerLabel.com, has a ton of quality and unique designs that you can purchase right now. And by doing so, support the channel at the same time. Items like the Architect and the Interrogator hoodies, the Mentally Checked Out and the Stranger t-shirts, the Do Not Cross mug and the All-Seeing beanie are all there and available. Check out these and other items I have to offer on StrangerLabel.com, and don't forget to use code STRANGER15 to get an extra 15% off your entire order. And with that out of the way, let's get back to the case.
right.
So we will get that moving, and then we can touch base with you maybe at the beginning of next week, and have a better idea of what your schedule is going to be like, and figure out what. And I'll know at that point what their schedule is going to be, and we can maybe figure out some time that will work.
Yeah, we might be able to have another meeting next week.
All right, what we may do then, Jeff and I may come by the jail and just figure out that piece that we were just talking about the timing, and then we can go from there.
You tell them I'm supposed to talk to them tomorrow, or I just tell them that use those clues and use that to our advantage.
Yeah, I don't really understand the role of an office.
Yeah. It's frustrating from our perspective.
I mean, hypothetically, if they charged me federally, would they indict me up here? I just don't understand, considering everything else that's going on, why they would. Or how, I guess not why, but how it would work. I don't know, like the logistics of it.
Well, like I said, they want to be able to solve that crime solved.
Right, they want to put my name on it.
That's
I understand
right.
that. It's not going to be officially solved till.
Exactly. But they want to be able to put your name to it.
Right,
And,
I understand that.
And then the question is how that is going to work. Do they want to file charges there? And that's what we're doing.
And it's a lot easier for them just to stomach it if they, their forbearance is giving rise to clues to other murders, whatever those clues might be. I think that is able to accomplish our goal.
I understand their perspective.
Yes.
I don't know. From my perspective, though, even if they were to officially charge me at this point,
It's not like it would be real breaking news.
Yeah. I think, in some ways it would be, because no law enforcement person has ever confirmed that you're
Right.
So,
It would just be confirmation of everyone's current speculation.
exactly.
So I'm not interested in it from that point. I was just interested in it from a logistic point. Where do they have to fly me to Vermont to charge me? Or do it here? Those are some of the questions.
I'm hoping not to get there.
The legal issues with Vermont are weighing heavily on Keyes' mind, since this is the exact situation he was hoping to avoid.
Is it warmer in Vermont?
Pretty much, it just got snowed the other day. We talked to them Monday, it just snowed, they told us.
They got more snow than us then.
Yeah.
Got a quota for last year.
Yeah. Any other questions?
You
gotta take a leak or anything for me? You're not gonna eat this?
No, I'm good. Thank
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Israel Keyes never went to trial and may have only confessed to a fraction of his crimes. 3 days after this final interview, Keyes slashed his wrists with a hidden razor blade. A suicide note found under his body consisted of an ode to murder, but offered no clues about other possible victims. In 2020, the FBI released the drawings of 11 skulls and 1 pentagram, which had been drawn in blood and found underneath Keyes' jail cell bed after his suicide. One of the drawings included the phrase, "We are one," written at the bottom. Thanks again for tuning in. Drop a like if you like this video, and check out my Patreon page if you want to support the channel even more. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.